Gotta catch 'em all has been the slogan for the Pokemon franchise for almost 30 years now. However, ever since Pokemon Sword and Shield, it should really just be gotta catch some of them. But with Legends Z-A releasing just a few weeks ago, I decided to do something that I haven't done in a few years, to actually complete the Pokedex. Now, I wanted to challenge myself, because, well, to be honest, completing the Pokedex in this game is actually pretty easy. So I decided that I was going to try to complete the Pokedex in under 24 hours. Before we begin, this whole challenge was streamed over on Twitch. I stream over there 2 to 3 times a week. The link will be in the description. And while you're there, feel free to check out my Discord. I post all my video and stream updates over there. We start off by taking a train to Lumio City, where we immediately get simped over by a girl. Hashtag unrelatable, am I right? She says that her name is Tawny, and then proceeds to go on a ramble about how I need to be part of an ad for her hotel. However, in the middle of her speech, a Pancham steals my bag and runs out into the alleyways. While chasing after it, we meet Pancham's trainers, and by using this Totodile that Tawny gave me, we're able to get our bag back. However, because we are too slow, it does turn to night and we get locked in this battle zone. Tawny kidnaps me and forces me to go to her hotel. Here, we meet this ancient old dude who gives me a key to a spare room. The next day, after heading down to the lobby, Tawny blackmails me into joining the Z-A Royale. And then after accepting my invite for me, she takes me outside to show me the ropes. However, before she starts training me, she decides to jump me first. But look, she couldn't even win a 2v1. Maybe I should be training her. After her humiliating defeat, Tawny takes me to a Poke Center, where we get the Pokedex, officially adding our first Pokemon to the Dex. After leaving the Poke Center, we make our way to Wild Zone 1, where we're able to catch Fletchling, Bunnelby, Scatterbug, Weedle, and Mareep, already boosting our Pokedex total to 6. We make our way to the Pokemon Lab, where we meet one of the baddest women in this game. Mabel gives me tasks to rank up our research level, which gives us TMs and XP candies, all of which will help us later in the game. However, the most important TM for us right now is Rock Smash, which we've already unlocked. By giving it to Bunnelby, we're able to smash these 2 rocks in Wild Zone 1, which lets us catch both Pidgey and Pichu. We make our way back to Hotel Z, where after some useless dialogue, we get a notification that our first promotion match is coming up. Now, in order to promote to the next rank, we need something called a Challenger's Ticket, and in order to get that, we have to collect a certain amount of points in the Z-A Royale. The amount of points changes per rank, however, most of the time you can get enough points in just a few minutes. Now, since this is still the tutorial, we get enough points by just battling 3 trainers, and after doing so, we're able to fight in our first promotion match. And well, yeah, that was pretty easy. After beating Zack, we rank up to rank Y, and we're visited by a familiar face from X and Y. So yeah, it turns out that Emma took over for Looker in the 5 years between these 2 games. We head back to Hotel Z for the night, and in the morning we're able to evolve Weedle into Kakuna, adding another Pokemon to our Pokedex. We head out into Wild Zone 2, where we catch Budew, Magikarp, Binacle, and Patrat, bringing our Dex total to 13 Pokemon in just a little over an hour of playing. Now, we are still missing Staryu here, but since it only spawns in at night, we'll have to catch it later. Tawny kidnaps us again for a little coffee date, but after telling her that I'm only interested in Mabel, she forces me to go to the Looker Bureau so I can turn myself in. However, on our way there, we meet up with a Super Saiyan who's talking about liberating the Pokemon from the Wild Zones. Okay buddy, sounds like someone else that we know. Tawny ends up getting me into even more trouble by talking too loud and alerting one of Ivor's followers. She then pins the blame on me and gets me caught into yet another Pokemon battle. Great. After that whole fiasco, we can finally enter Wild Zone 3, where we can catch Flabebe, Skiddo, 2 Pikachu, and a Litleo. We also claim the free Ralts gift, bringing our Pokemon total to 18. Now, we did miss out on a few encounters in this area, but don't worry, we'll be back soon. We make our way to the Looker Bureau, where Emma decides to have me do her work for her, as she's too lazy to do it herself. However, this work that she put me on is actually pretty helpful to our challenge. Our first quest takes us to Wild Zone 4, where this old lady has lost her ring. Turns out, at the back of this cemetery, there's a Sableye that just got itself a great inheritance. This Sableye is actually pretty important, as it's the only one that you can catch until Wild Zone 9. After catching the Sableye and getting the lady's ring back, we run into the Wild Zone and catch a Ghastly, Spinarak, and an Ekans. While we're here, we also evolve Scatterbug to Spupa and Kakuna to Beedrill, getting our total to 24 Pokemon. By going into the shopping mall, we talk to this girl who wants a Pikachu so that she can use her Thunderstone, and by trading her our spare Pikachu, she trades us her Heracross. Now, why do we get a 125 base attack stat Pokemon at the very start of the game? I don't know. However, Heracross will be spending the rest of their time in the box. The final quest that we have to do involves fighting this Alpha Bunnelby, and Well, I just caught it. After completing all 3 of the quests, we head back to the Looker Bureau, where Emma decides it's time to run the ones. And, well, the fight went as expected. We get notified on our next promotion match, but first, I have more important things to do. Now, some Pokemon only spawn at night, so by returning to the previous wild zones, we're able to catch Staryu, Esper, Pancham, and Honedge. We also use up some of our XP candies to evolve Totodile into Croconaw, bringing our total Pokemon count to 30 Pokemon. After getting our Challengers ticket, evolving Spupa into Vivillon in the process, we're able to do our promotion match, and due to my overleveled Crocodile, we win with ease. When we wake up, Naveen decides to challenge us to a fight, and, well, Crocodile go burr. After this fight with Naveen, we head out into the remaining 2 wild zones that we have access to. In Wild Zone 5, we're able to catch Bellsprout, Venipede, Abra, Pidgeotto, and Electrike. And on our way to Wild Zone 6, we evolve Fletchling to Fletchinder and Mareep to Flaffy. After making it to Wild Zone 6, we're able to fill out our decks even more. Here we catch Baneri, Houndour, Metatite, and Swablu, which brings our Pokedex total to 42 Pokemon. So right now, we've already caught every Pokemon in the wild zones that are available to us. So besides evolutions and the regular city spawns, there isn't a whole lot of Pokemon that we can add to our Pokedex. However, I did decide to run around Lumios for a bit, catching any Pokemon that I didn't find while going between the wild zones, and, well, we found Pansear, and that's it. Anyways, now that it's night, we can head to the Z-A Royale to grind for our next Challenger's ticket. A couple minutes of jumping people later, we're able to do our next promotion match, and in case you haven't learned from the previous matches, Crocodile goes burr. However, our sheep did have to finish the fight because I am so smart and switched the Croc into a Thunderfang. We wake up the next morning and talk with Lita, and after she leaves Hotel Z, AZ tells us to chase after her because she left her things here. After finding her in some random alleyway, she decides to fight me, but because I have the better water type, we beat her easily. Now, because we haven't unlocked any more wild zones yet, there still isn't many other Pokemon to catch. However, after beating Lita, we were able to evolve Magikarp into Gyarados, bringing our total to 44 Pokemon. Now, shortly after this evolution, Mabel calls me over to the lab as she has a small gift for me. Mabel lets us choose one of the 3 Kanto starters, and after choosing the Onion Frog, we change the time to night, so we can get our next Challenger's ticket. However, throughout the night, we were able to evolve Bunnelby to Diggersby, Croconaw to Feraligatr, and Patra to Watchog, bringing our Pokedex total to 48 Pokemon. We do our next promotion match, and because no one's stronger than my big Gator, we sweep through yet another promotion fight. After being promoted to rank V and leaving the restaurant that we had our fight at, we get stopped by this black puppy. He immediately runs after seeing us, and after following it, the puppy dog grabs us and takes us to a rooftop with an emo on it. The emo goes Super Saiyan, and just before we're about to get clipped, AZ shows up with a Mega Lucario and a Mega Bracelet for me. And with the help of Mega Lucario, we're able to calm down the Mega Absol and it joins our team. Now, there are about 15 other Rogue Megas in this game, and well, they all play out the exact same as this one, so I'm just going to skip over them so this video doesn't get too long. The next day, Tawny challenges us to a Mega Evolution fight, and after throwing my Gator at her Mega Manectric, we beat her easily. After Tawny's humiliating defeat, she invites me over to Quasartico Inc. to chat with Vinny, the guy in charge of taking down the Rogue Mega Evolutions. However, now that we're rank V, we have unlocked 4 new Wild Zones, which means we have a lot more Pokemon that we can catch. First, we head to Wild Zone 7, where we catch Vanillite, Hippopotas, Roselia, Floette, Shuppet, and Audino. Next, we head to Wild Zone 8, where we catch Numel, Machop, Drillbur, Krokorok, Sandile, and Gibble. Finally, we make our way to Wild Zone 9, after we're able to catch Kadabra, Carbink, and Mawile, as well as evolving Ralts to Curlia and Spinarak to Ariados. After our little catching spree, it turns to night, which lets us catch a Haunter in the streets of Lumios. Finally, we head to Wild Zone 10, where after catching both Slowpoke and Carvana, something interesting happened. Oh! Shiny! Yo! Whoa! That is one that I needed too! So yeah, we found a shiny Tynamo. Now, is this one of the worst shinies in this game? Sure. However, at least Electros looks cool. We're able to catch an Arbok on one of the rooftops of Wild Zone 10, completing all the Wild Zones for the time being. And while running around Lumios, we catch a Trubbish sitting next to some trash. This brings our Pokedex total to 72 Pokemon. After leaving Tawny waiting at Quasartico for about 2 days, we finally meet up with her and Vinny. Vinny requests that Team MZ help him out by taking on the rogue Mega Pokemon. However, in order to prove that we're strong enough, we have to face him off in a fight. But first, we need another Challenger's ticket. After getting our Challenger's ticket, we're able to face Vinny off in a fight. Now, unfortunately, his cool Mega Pokemon couldn't save him from my big Gator, and after this fight, we rank him from rank V all the way to rank F. Now, this is a very controversial decision that Nintendo decided to go in, as the whole point of the game is going from rank Z to rank A. However, as I said earlier, not including the Rogue Mega Absol fight, there are 15 Rogue Mega fights, which does happen to be the same number of ranks that you skip. Anyways, with that small rant over, Vinny invites us to discuss our role in taking down the Rogue Mega Evolutions. And that role is to, well, take down the Rogue Mega Evolutions. Kinda crazy, right? By using some of my leftover EXP candies, we're able to level up Curlier to level 30 and evolve it into a Gardevoir, adding another Pokemon to our Pokedex total. Now, this is where we get access to our first set of Rogue Mega Evolutions, and after beating them, our Flappy evolves into Ampharos. We get greeted by Zygarde at Hotel Z, who challenges us to a fight, and considering that Zygarde is 4 times weak to Ice, so Ice Fang go burr. After Zygarde's defeat, it decides that it wants to play fetch with me, so it gives me a Pebble, and shortly after this, a tall man walks up to us and introduces himself as L. He says that he's currently taking care of Zygarde and tells us that we need to become a trainer that is worthy enough to fight by Zygarde's side. We head inside of Hotel Z and start telling the team about what happened outside. However, during our conversation, we get interrupted by the Z-A Royale notification, which tells me that my next promotion match is against the electric-type streamer Kanari. Because Naveen is a huge simp for Kanari, he doesn't know who to root for during our promotion match, so Lita tells him to challenge us to a battle, and if we won, Naveen would have to help us beat Kanari. And while considering that my Alligator is not only overleveled, but can also Mega Evolve now, it's pretty obvious who won this fight. Naveen tells us that the best way for us to find Kanari is to be the winner at her quiz contest that she's conveniently hosting right now. However, Naveen won't let us go until we get our Challenger ticket first. Now, like usual, getting the Challenger's ticket was easy. It was also very boring. However, we were able to evolve Esper to Meowstic, Numel to Camerupt, Electric to Manectric, Fletchinder to Talonflame, Litleo to Pyroar, and Gibble to Gabite, bringing our Pokedex total to 80 Pokemon. After heading back to Hotel Z, we show Naveen our Challenger's ticket and he tells us the location of Kanari's quiz. And well, since this is a game for children, Naveen just tells us the answers. After winning the quiz, Kanari tells us where to find her. We go to the construction building, where instead of finding Kanari, we find an old man instead. After getting catfished, we decide to beat up the old man, and well, water beats ground. Anyways, it turns out that Unkir is Kanari's grandpa, and after beating him up, Kanari comes out to fight us as well. Now, even though Kanari uses electric types and I have a Feraligatr, we aren't at that big of a disadvantage because, well, I'm stronger and I have Bulldoze, and because of that, we win with no trouble at all. Now that we're rank E, we've unlocked 3 new wild zones. However, before we catch anything, we have to beat up some more rogue Mega Pokemon. But, as I said before, these fights are essentially the same every time, so we're skipping them. Now, after heading back to Hotel Z, we get notified of our next promotion match, this time against Ivor, the weird guy from earlier. However, before we do any of that, it's time for a few more encounters. First off, Wild Zone 11. Here, we catch Stunfisk, Clauncher, Furfrou, and Inkay. Next, we head to Wild Zone 12, which is home to a majority of the ice types in the game. Here we catch Snover, Machoke, 2 Snorunt, Delibird, Bergmite, and finally Go-Goat. This thing took way too long to catch. We head to the Z-A Royale, and while grinding for our Challenger's ticket, we evolve Slowpoke into Slowbro. After getting our Challenger's ticket, we head over to Wild Zone 13, where we catch Weepinbell, Phantump, Pinsir, Scyther, as well as the Alpha Trevenant. We also evolve Meditite to Medicham and Carvana to Sharpedo, bringing our Pokedex total to 98 Pokemon. We head over to Ivor's dojo, however, he's apparently looking for his sister Gwen. Ivor says that if we want to fight him, we need to help find his sister, which starts one of the longest fetch quests in this game. However, with the power of editing, I can skip it all for you. You're welcome. First, we ask Emma for help with finding this girl, and with the power of Emma and Ivor, we find out that she's hidden in some random sewer for some reason. However, before the sewers, we are able to evolve Swablu into Altaria and Trubbish into Garbodor. Now, this place is infested with Pokemon, so we are able to increase our dex total a little bit. In the sewers, we are able to catch both Noibat and Klefki. Now, unfortunately, we are locked behind this gate. However, because Ivor's the goat, he just punches through it. What are they feeding this guy? We also catch Sculp here, bringing our Pokedex total to 103. We find Gwyn in a far room deep into the sewers, and we find out that the goat Ivor has been causing troubles for Gwyn, which led to her hiding from him. But to be fair, this dude just wants to run the once, so can we really blame him? Now, because we led Ivor to Gwyn, she challenges us to a fight, and yet again, my big gator comes out on top. Now that we've found Ivor's sister, he lets us challenge him to a promotion match back at his dojo, and well, yet again, Big Gator wins. This win lets us rank up to rank D. We wake up the next day, where after talking to Naveen for a bit, Lita rushes into Hotel Z, asking us if we knew where Tawny went. Apparently, Tawny got us in debt with the literal mafia. She also decided to dox me and give them my phone number. So thanks, Tawny. The mafia boss invites both Lita and I to his office, so we do the responsible thing and run around Lumios to catch a Gumi first. After that slight detour, we head to the Rust Syndicate, where after sweeping the guards out front, as well as the mafia boss's bodyguard, evolving our Shuppet into a Banette in the process, we're able to talk to the boss. We head into his office where we're greeted by the absolute unit himself, Corbeau. Now, he tells us that Tawny took out 100k from him, and now we have to work off the $1 million that she accumulated in interest. So now, instead of being Team MZ's errand boy, I'm now the Mafia's errand boy. However, that's all behind me. Now, it's time to catch some more Pokemon. In Wild Zone 14, we're able to catch Lairon, Aeron, Excadrill, Emolga, and Onix. Next, we head to Wild Zone 15, which unfortunately only holds a few new Pokemon, so we are only able to catch Pumpkaboo and Whirlipede. We also catch both Pampor and Pansage in the city while we're in the area. And finally, we evolve Bergmite into Avalugg. While grinding for our Challengers ticket, we evolve Snover to Abomasnow and Gumi to Sliggoo, bringing our Pokedex total to 117 Pokemon, meaning we have already caught over half the Pokedex. We head back to Hotel Z, where after we find out that Tawny did what we all do and didn't read the terms of conditions to her loan, we get notified of 3 new Rogue Megas, where after fighting them, we evolve Snorunt to Glalie, and we also catch Swirlix while heading into one of the Mega Spots. With all those Rogue Megas defeated, we run around Lumios trying to find any of the Pokemon that I missed so far. This lets us catch Scraggy and Dratini. We head back to Wild Zone 14 as we are still missing one encounter here, and well, something interesting happened. Hi, bud! Thanks for stopping by, I guess. So yeah, we found our second shiny in the challenge already, but still no Helioptile. Great. However, we are also missing a couple Pokemon back at Wild Zone 15, so after heading back there, we're able to catch Scolipede, and while trying to find a way to catch a Larvitar, something interesting happened for a third time. I heard it. Where are you? Who are you? I heard the noise. Oh, it's an Abra! Hello. There we are. Damn. So yeah, we found 2 shinies in the span of about 20 minutes, which is insane. Also, we did catch a Pidgeot on top of one of the roofs while trying to find the Abra. However, that's not important right now. Anyways, back to the Larvitar hunt. Unfortunately, the main pathway to get to Larvitar is blocked off by story progression, so we do have to do a bit of parkour. In our endeavors of finding a path to Larvitar, we find an Eevee, the first of many. We also catch ourselves a Hawlucha on a nearby rooftop. Eventually though, we do end up finding a way to the Larvitars, and after catching one, we bring our Pokedex total to 126 Pokemon. Also, I do know that there are some Larvitar spawns on the rooftops around Lumios, however, in the moment, I just kind of forgot about them, so I just made this a whole lot harder on myself for no reason. We return to Wild Zone 14 and finally catch ourselves a Helioptile. Why did you have to evade me for so long? We head back to Hotel Z, where Corbo tells me that we need to do our first job for him. However, this job's actually pretty helpful as it lets us catch a Gengar. Corbo also forces us to do another 2 jobs for him as well, however, those ones don't get me any new Pokemon, so we're skipping them. We head back to Hotel Z, where Corbo calls me and asks us to meet him at his office alone. And well, because I don't want him to hunt me down, we do as he says. Corbo calls off our debt and clears up all the interest on Tawny's loan. However, in return, he wants to have a Pokemon battle with us. Since we already have our Challengers ticket, we're able to immediately battle Corbo. And well, in case you couldn't guess already, our big gator sweeps him. After a little meeting with Corbo, we head back to Hotel Z, where we have our first guest stop by the hotel. Turns out that Corbo wasn't done with us yet, as he decides to stop by the hotel. However, instead of making me do more work for him, he just books himself a room. after Corbo's stay, he proves to us why he's one of the GOATs of this game, as he not only pays for his room, but he also tips Tawny the 100k that she still owes him so that she can pay off his loan. AZ gives both Naveen and Lita Mega Rings as well as Mega Stones to evolve their Pokemon, and while with their newfound power, they challenge us to a fight. However, because Lita hasn't evolved her Staryu yet, and I'm too high level for Naveen to even have a chance, we win both fights easily. Anyways, after our battles, we head over to the Novo Cafe, where we're so rudely interrupted by a maid. Turns out that some random rich lady named Jacinth wants us to participate in her little tournament. However, first we have to change into some fancier clothes. However, before we do that, we're able to evolve our Honedge into a Doublade, and by using a Dusk Stone in our bag, we're able to evolve Doublade into Aegislash, bringing our Pokedex total to 130 Pokemon. We make a little detour to Wild Zone 16, where we catch Phalanx, Florges, Barbaracle, and Starmie, as well as evolving our Sliggoo into a Goodra. We also head to Wild Zone 17, also known as Hell on Earth. So yeah, for some reason, Game Freak decided to not only give all of these Pyro or Earth power, but they also let these guys hit you when you're on the roof. So yeah, that's fun. Anyways, in Wild Zone 17, we're able to catch Lampent, Chespin, and Skarmory. We're also able to evolve Gabite into Garchomp, Vanilla to Vanillish, and Noibat to Noivern. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I tried catching a Froakie in Wild Zone 16 for almost half an hour, and almost every single time I got close to one, it ran away. So because of this, I just went through the obstacle courses and the Froakie side quest and just got the gift one instead. So after all of this, we bring our Pokemon total to 142. Now that we've caught most of the Pokemon available to us, we continue with the story, where after fighting this fashion designer, she decides to punish me by giving me the worst looking suit known to man. So thanks, I guess. So now that we look fancy enough, I don't know why Tawny didn't have to change, but whatever, we can head over to the hotel where we were told to meet up at, where the girl in the maid outfit tells us to jump in the elevator. Turns out that Jacinth, the owner of the hotel, has gathered up some of the strongest trainers in Lumiose to participate in her tournament. However, just before we're about to begin, Vinny calls us and tells us to handle some more Rogue Mega Pokemon. Now during our strategy meeting, Jacinth starts answering Lita's questions, and no one could notice. Like, look, Tawny's right in front of her, how does she not see her? Anyways, we take on the Rogue Megas, catching a Dedenne on the way, as well as evolving Skrelp to Dragalge and Hippopotas to Hippowdon, bringing our Pokedex total to 145 Pokemon. Finally, we head back to Hotel Z, and after meeting with the rest of Team MZ, we hear a loud noise outside. So apparently, Jacinth didn't like us heading back to Hotel Z, so she went and sent out her lackeys to force us to go to her tournament. And after beating them all, we tell the band that we were on our way over there anyways. We also get our new promotion match notification, which coincidentally ends up being Jacinth. Who could have guessed? We get our Challengers ticket, which lets us evolve Tynamo into Electric, Panchant to Pangoro, Bulbasaur to Ivysaur, Krokorok to Crocodile, Froakie to Frogadier, Lairon to Aggron, Chespin to Quilladin, Ivysaur to Venusaur, and Larvitar to Pupitar in the process. This brings our Pokedex total to 154 Pokemon. We head over to Jacinth's hotel, where we're finally able to take place in our tournament. Now, this tournament has us fighting the same trainers as our previous 3 promotion matches, and well, the results are the exact same as before. During these fights, we're able to evolve Quilladin to Chestnut, Frogadier to Greninja, and Dratini to Dragonair. However, after beating Corbo and becoming one of the finalists in the tournament, we get interrupted by Zygarde, who challenges us to a fight, this time in its 50% form. Now, as we learned from last time we fought it, being 4 times weak to ice when we have Ice Fang does not really work for Zygarde, so it goes down just as easily as before. After that little distraction, we're able to fight Jacinth for the title of winner in her tournament, and for our promotion match. Now, I can't lie, Jacinth actually put up a good fight. However, like all of those before her, she quickly fell to my Big Gator. This tournament ranks us up to rank B, as well as bringing our total Pokemon to 157. The next day, we get a message from Vinny telling us to head to Quasardigo as he has to tell us something important. However, I just unlocked some more Wild Zones, so sorry Vinny, I've got better things to do. On the way to the Wild Zone 18, our Vanillish evolves to Vanillux. This brings our Pokedex total to 158 Pokemon, which means that we have completed over 2/3 of the Pokedex already. Now, we actually hit this earlier, but I forgot to mention it, but who cares, I'm mentioning it now. After making it to Wild Zone 18, we see this weird looking dog, and after putting it out of its misery, we can start catching some new Pokemon. Here, we catch Bagon, Alpha Lopunny, Alpha Salamence, and finally Fennekin. This Fennekin took like 8 resets too, by the way. It did not want to stay in the bulb. To pass some time, we head over to Wild Zone 19, which has an abundance of normal types. But at least Game Freak made sure to put the cool ones here, like Drampa and Kangaskhan. Yes, I think Drampa's cool, deal with it. Anyways, here we're able to catch Kangaskhan, Clefairy, Cleffa, Drampa, and another Eevee. And yes, I was getting jumped in this area, how'd you know? On the rooftops near Wild Zone 18, we catch a Riolu. And after all of this catching, we're able to bring our Pokedex total to 167 Pokemon. Now, fortunately for us, most of the missing Pokemon are either post-game or just evolutions that I've yet to do. Now, I decided to put off Vinny's little discussion for a little bit longer, and because it's already nighttime, we head to the Z-A Royale to get our final Challenger's ticket of this playthrough. However, like usual, with the Challenger's ticket comes new evolutions. So tonight, we evolve Scraggy to Scrafty, Bagon to Shelgon, Quantra to Clawitzer, Houndour to Houndoom, and Fennekin to Braixen. After getting the Challenger's ticket, I noticed that a lot of the Pokemon that I was missing were stone evolutions, and by shopping at the Stone Emporium, I was able to buy most of the evolution stones that I needed. This lets us evolve Clefairy to Clefable, Pansear to Simisear, Eevee to Flareon, Panpour to Simipour, Weepinbell to Victreebel, Lampent to Chandelure, Eevee to Glaceon, Pikachu to Raichu, Electric to Electros, and Pansage to Simisage. We also buy the fossils needed to revive Tyrant, Amora, and Aerodactyl. I turned the time to night again to grind up some levels on some of the remaining Pokemon that were missing. This lets us evolve Braixen to Delphox, bringing our Pokedex total to 186 Pokemon. Now, Vinny's super important message for us was that the Cosardigo company had our backs when we were dealing with the Rogue Megas. This really could have just been an email. Now, even after all the evolutions that we've just had, there's still a few more Pokemon that can still evolve. One of those being Eevee. Unfortunately, we still need 6 more Eevee at this point to get all the evolutions, and well, Eevee only spawns in one Wild Zone, and even then, only one can spawn at a time. Luckily, Game Freak realized that this would be a problem, so they spread out a couple Eevee spawns around Lumiose. So after a quick run around Lumiose, we were able to catch 6 more Eevee. By using the remaining evolution stones that I had, we were able to evolve 3 of the Eevee into Jolteon, Vaporeon, and Leafeon. Now, while doing another wrap around Lumiose, we're finally able to catch a Spritzee. Now, why did it take me this long to find one? I have no idea. Maybe I just wasn't looking hard enough. We head to the sewers where after going all the way to the room where Gwen was hiding earlier in the game, we're able to catch a Litwick. This brings our total to 191 Pokemon. We head back to Hotel Z where after we hold yet another strategy meeting, we get tasked to fight even more Rogue Megas. And just before the last one, we're able to evolve Amora to Aurorus, and after turning the time back to day, we're able to evolve Tyrant to Tyrantrum, bringing our Pokedex total to 193 Pokemon. We head back to Hotel Z where we get our notification for our final promotion match, and the dude is just a silhouette. We head over to Emma, who said that she'll only tell us who our opponent is if we beat her in a Pokemon battle. And just as everyone else before her, she was swiftly defeated by the hands of my big gator. Emma tells us that if we want to find out who this dude is, we should talk to Mabel. So essentially this whole fight was a waste of time. Anyways, after talking to Mabel, she reveals that she used to be part of Team Flare because, it wasn't obvious enough. Mabel tells us to head over to the Novo Cafe if we really want to know who our opponent is, so yet again, this was just a giant waste of time. Finally, after all of this time, we meet Grisham, the final obstacle until we hit rank A. However, he said that if we wanted to challenge him, we had to head to Lysander Labs first, and I'm really getting tired of all of this running around. Anyways, we head to Lysander Labs and taking down Grisham's girlfriend in the process, and then we get told to explore the lab and will be told of all of the wrongdoings that AZ has done. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention these guys really hate AZ by the way. Now, we're able to evolve our second Snorunt to a Frostlass with the Dawnstone that we picked up off the ground, as well as evolving Helioptile into Heliolisk with a Sunstone. Now, after reading through AZ's court files, we get interrupted by Al and Zygarde, but they don't really say anything important, so we just head back to the entrance of the cafe. Now, because Grisham can't make up his mind, he tells us that if we want to fight him, we have to first bring him AZ's Floette, so that he can be the one to prevent the secret weapon from activating. We head back to Hotel Z, where after telling everybody about what happened, AZ decides that now is the best time to tell us his entire life story. Now, I was going to go straight to the Grisham fight, however, in Lysander Labs, I actually missed an encounter, because well as Beldum, and this thing just didn't want to be caught earlier. So after walking to the area for a bit, we're able to catch our Beldum, and because it's already level 50, we're able to evolve it into a Metang and then into a Metagross, bringing our Pokedex total to 198 Pokemon. Now with all of that backtracking out of the way, we head to the Novo Cafe where after telling Grisham that we aren't giving him Floette, he challenges us to a promotion match. And well, like every other promotion match in this game, we swept him with Feraligatr. However, I can't lie, this was definitely the hardest fight that we've had so far, so good job Game Freak for making a strong final boss. After getting promoted to rank A, we take the rest of the day off to just relax. However, the next morning, Prism Tower just explodes, then starts glowing with mega energy. Together with the rest of Team MZ, we head to Prism Tower, but only after evolving Pupitar into Tyranitar and Dragonair into Dragonite, bringing our Pokedex total to 200 Pokemon. By going off the information that AZ told us previously, the only way to take control over Prism Tower is to have the strongest Mega Evolution trainer go up to the tower with Floette, and using her Mega Form to control the energy built up inside itself. However, because both Tawny and I are rank A now, we have one final face-off to determine who the strongest trainer of all of Lumiose is. And if you couldn't guess, it was yet another Steamroll. However, I won't lie, she did take down the Gator, but due to the rest of my team being mostly pseudo-legendaries, they were able to take down her Meganium. Now, Tawny being the baby that she is, immediately switches up on her own rules as she says that she wants to be the one to go to the tower with Floette. And, well, look how that worked out for her. Lita, Naveen, and I hold yet another strategy meeting to figure out how we're going to control the tower, but our meeting gets interrupted by the friends that we made along the way. And together with everyone, we come up with a plan to get me to Zygarde so that we could control the tower. Now, I won't lie, this whole section's kind of boring, as we have to fight a bunch of wild Mega Pokemon, which typically turns into my Feraligatr getting 2v1, while my partners are doing who knows what in the other corner. However, the one good thing about this section is that the human ladder that Corbo and the rest of the kit make for us. After teaming up with Zygarde, we're able to take down the Eiffel Tower, and thus saving France from being wiped off the map. I can't believe I just said that. Now, just because we saved the region doesn't mean that we still don't have the silly little pocket monsters to catch. After waking up in our hotel room, we find a Pokeball that was left to us by AZ. This Pokeball carries Karina's Lucario, and after taking it with me, we're able to add yet another Pokemon to our Pokedex. So the main promise with the ZA Royale was that whoever hits rank A first will get a wish granted for them. However, since Tawny and I both made it to rank A, technically we're both supposed to get our own wish. But for some reason, Tawny decides that instead of 2 individual wishes, we should just combine our 2 wishes into 1 Mega Wish. After meeting with Vinny and the Quasardigo president, we tell him that for our wish, we want to continue the ZA Royale, which they tell us that they were already planning on doing that, so we just wasted our wish. Great, thanks again, Tawny. However, something good did come out of this, as now the final Wild Zone 20, is now available to us. This Wild Zone holds all of the Legends ZA starters as well as the Kanto starters, and as some of the annoying evolutions like Malamar. However, the most important area of this Wild Zone is right under Prism Tower. This area spawns in 2 alpha Pokemon that are randomly chosen from a list of 67 Pokemon, which means that this is the only place we can get most of the trait evolutions in this game, except for these 2 for some reason. Anyways, in this area we catch Malamar, Roserade, Alpha Machamp, Chikorita, Charmander, Squirtle, Alpha Gallade, and Tepig. And due to all the starter Pokemon being over level 50, we're able to evolve them all into their final forms right away. This means that we can evolve Chikorita to Bayleaf, Bayleaf to Meganium, Charmander to Charmeleon, Charmeleon to Charizard, Squirtle to Wartortle, Wartortle to Blastoise, Tepig to Pignite, and finally, Pignite to Emboar. This brings our Pokedex total to 217 Pokemon. Now, after looking through our Pokedex, we're only missing 13 Pokemon, with the majority of these Pokemon being trait evolutions or legendaries. However, there are 3 more Pokemon that I still haven't evolved yet. Espeon, Umbreon, and Sylveon are the only 3 evolutions that evolve by friendship, and if you're unaware, grinding for friendship sucks. This is quite literally a lazy person's worst nightmare. Luckily, Game Freak knew that people like me existed, so in Generation 3 they added these friendship berries, which raises your friendship at the cost of lowering your Pokemon's EVs. Not to be confused with these EVs though. So, by going to this random berry vendor sitting in the middle of Wild Zone 8, which seems completely safe by the way, we were able to buy and use these berries on our 3 EVs, which gives us Sylveon, Umbreon, and Espeon, bringing our Pokedex total to 220 Pokemon. Now, every non-legendary Pokemon that we're missing are all trait evolutions. However, there are still a few of these Pokemon that can be found in the wild. Remember what I said about Wild Zone 20 earlier? Yeah, both Gourgeist and Alakazam can be found as Alpha Pokemon in Wild Zone 20. And well, after about 20 minutes of resetting the Wild Zone, we're able to catch both Gourgeist and Alakazam, bringing our Pokedex total to 222 Pokemon. Now, you may be wondering, why didn't you just catch the Alpha Gourgeist in Wild Zone 15? And my answer to that is, why does everything that I do have to be the easy way of doing things? Can't I just enjoy the journey along the way? Also, I just forgot that it existed. So unfortunately, to progress through the post-game, we have to take on the Infinite Z-A Royale, which was the replacement for the Z-A Royale after we hit rank A. And while the premise is still the same as before, however, after getting a challenger's ticket, we can head back to Sardigo and challenge a random trainer that we met alongside our journey. In this case, we have to have a rematch with Zach, our first ever promotion match. Surely in the time from when we last saw him, he got stronger, right? Okay, yeah, he still got his level 9 Slowpoke, and while it's pretty obvious who won this fight. After this little side quest, we get a call saying that we need to head over to Hotel Z, where we meet with L, who tells us about the one that gives and the one that takes, referring to the two legendary Pokemon in X and Y. We head over to Mabel's lab, where after asking her about the one that gives, she tells us about Xerneas, the Pokemon that L was referring to. However, she also says that due to the sheer amount of life force that Xerneas has, it's causing some alpha Pokemon to become enraged in some of the wild zones. This is actually a good thing for us though, as in Wild Zone 3 there's an enraged Alpha Steelix, which is the last available Pokemon for us that's not a legendary Pokemon. This was also a very easy catch and definitely did not take me 5 different tries. After calming down the other two Alpha Pokemon, we talk to Mabel, who tells us that Xerneas will be arriving in Lumio City soon. So in the meantime, we head over to Grisham and Grizel, who talk to us about the one that takes, which turns out to be Yveltal. They tell us to meet them at Quasartico, and after talking to both of them and Vinny, we get sent down to the Hyperbolic Time Chamber to train for this fight. And what better to train than to take on another 3 rogue Mega Pokemon? Yay! Anyways, now that these little side quests are done, I realized that I forgot to trade the last 4 Pokemon that were needed to complete my Pokedex. So by trading with someone in my chat, we are able to evolve Slowpoke to Slowking, Spritzy to Aromatisse, Scyther to Scizor, and finally, Swirlix to Slurpuff, bringing our Pokedex total to 227 Pokemon, which means that there are only 3 Pokemon missing, which are unironically called the Aura Trio. Now, our first target out of the 3 is Xerneas, who is found sitting in Wild Zone 11, and I wasn't prepared for this fight in the slightest, as I still had the 4 trait evolutions in my party from earlier. However, surely nothing bad will happen, right? Well, yeah, actually nothing bad did happen as I threw an Ultra Ball and caught it first try. Hey, I'm not gonna complain. Anyways, next up is Yveltal, who's sitting on top of a random shopping mall for some reason. You know what? Sure, you do you, buddy. Anyways, I actually did prepare for this as I brought Xerneas along, as well as a bunch of my pseudo-legendaries. And well, none of that mattered because I also caught this guy at full health. Now, I'm not sure if I either got lucky or if these Pokemon have a 100% catch rate in this game, as while I was writing the script, I was unable to find any information about their Legends Z-A catch rate. However, I did know that their catch rates are actually a bit higher for legendary Pokemon, sitting at about 12% when they're at full health with the Pokeball. Anyways, what matters is that we caught them, and now I only have one more Pokemon until we have completed the Pokedex. We head back to Hotel Z, where before going back inside, we get stopped by L, who challenges us to a fight. And well, it could have gone better. Anyways, with L defeated, we're now able to fight and catch Zygarde. Now, we can head to Wild Zone 20, where Zygarde is waiting for us under Prism Tower. This fight actually functions the same as the Rogue Megas as before, however Zygarde actually has 3 phases, one for each of its forms. Now, this fight isn't actually as hard as it seems, as the first 2 phases have attacks that are pretty easy to dodge, and due to its typing, Zygarde's health is pretty easy to chip down. However, the main challenge comes from Zygarde's final phase, its 100% form. Its Core Enforcer move, as well as Lion's Wrath, can be pretty hard to dodge, especially if you don't expect it. But by learning where the safe spaces are, this phase isn't actually as hard as it seems. And with all of these 3 phases done, Zygarde is now available to be caught, which brings our Pokedex total to 230 Pokemon, which means that we have completed the Pokedex. Now, normally whenever you complete the Pokedex by returning to the professor, you typically get a reward. These rewards range from things like a diploma to even things like the shiny charm. So surely Mabel will give us something that makes this all worth it, right?
She just didn't see like the Pokedex, like Mabel. Look,
Look! She just wants me to do the research tasks, man. What the hell? Never mind then. Well, anyways, the question you may be wondering is, how did we do? The whole goal of this video was to catch every single Pokemon in under 24 hours. So did we do it? Well, the answer to that would be yes. This whole challenge actually took just over 18 hours. However, with better luck at catching Pokemon, as well as better luck with finding some of the alpha Pokemon in Wild Zone 20, you could probably get a time of around 16 hours. Finally, I just want to thank all of you so much for watching till the end of this video, as it took quite a long time to make. If you enjoyed, it would be great if you subscribed, as I'm trying to hit 100 subscribers by the end of the year. And if you want to, you should check out my Discord. I announce any video or stream updates down there, so if you're interested, I'd appreciate it if you checked it out. And with all that out of the way, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.